BenFlyingRetro, and I'm embarking on a quest to purchase every classic GI Joe comic from the original 80s and 90s Marvel run.
Warning.
Hunting down individual issues from every corner of the globe in whatever order the universe decides to give me. Join me and my pal Steve every week as we discuss my latest find. Welcome to Chasing Joe. Chasing Joe. It's episode 8 of Chasing Joe! Episode 8 of Chasing Joe! Whoa! I'm coming off the slopes fresh from riding some pow S-jumps. I've been snowboarding. I'm back. I'm high on the French Alps air. They say the air is like champagne. I didn't get any alcohol content, but I feel very high.
It shows. That introduction was superb, but just for anyone who suddenly pricked up their ears, this is actually issue 28.
Oh, what did I say?
8.
I said
Nutter.
I said 8. It's episode 28 of Chasing Joe. We've done 28 episodes. I'm proud of that. It doesn't matter if I'm 3,000 meters up a mountain or a mere 20 meters above sea level, I think I am in this residence. I am proud of that fact. Now, I'm going to keep these goggles on because I just like them, but my snowboarding outfit just so happens to be very camo based. So I've got a green camo jacket. These are desert camo, and with the hood up, and then I've got a camouflaged, what do you call that goes around your, like a snood?
Chamois, I believe.
Yeah, a kerchief.
Kerchief.
Yeah, so dude, when I've got the goggles down and everything, I look full military. And I got some footage out there of me like pretending to talk to a helo that I'm going to put together. Wild. Yeah, I felt like a GI Joe. I'm so gutted because I forgot to take any of my Snow Joes. I was going to take Blizzard and do some skiing, and I was like really cross that I forgot.
The first thing I did when I got to the United States during a snow season was go to the local Walmart and buy Arctic Duke.
Whoa! But hang on, what do you mean? America's big. Where were you? Were
South Lake Tahoe. Right between Nevada and California.
You were not there. That's my dream. So me and Phoenix looked at a lot of footage from that place, and it's got to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. You can snowboard and you see the lake.
There was a crazy moment right at the end of the season where I went snowboarding in the morning and then swimming in the lake in the afternoon.
Dude, but that's cold, yeah? That lake is...
I come from Cape Town. It ain't that cold.
You're just happy there's no sharks in it.
Yeah, you get out of the water, you got 2 belly buttons, baby.
Dude, you better not be swimming in Cape Town. Come on. Dude. There's no swimming there. It's loaded with sharks. Loaded.
You have more chance of being killed by a toaster.
Do you reckon?
Or a chair. Dude,
I think the stat is more people die falling off their toilet seat than... But I think that's more like global. I don't know. Anyway.
So you're saying like 1 in every 100 Cape Townians is going to have a run-in with a great white shark.
Well, look,
something about the great whites. They're actually being predated upon by killer whales. Killer whales eat sharks. Because why? Killer whales are pack animals and sharks are solitary animals. They just don't have the numbers, man.
Jeez,
they're getting desperate.
There's a war going on out there, and I'm going to stay out of it. I don't want to be involved. But look, I got this issue. This is fresh. This came 2 days ago. I'd just done a day's snowboarding. I was chillaxing on the bed. I get a message from Chief, and he's like, "Oh, comics and stuff is live on Whatnot. He's doing a GI Joe show." And I was like, "What?" And I loaded up Whatnot, and I bought a book. Should we find out what it was and how much it was?
Nice, Ben. But did this jump the queue? This sort of impulse buy?
It did, but it just felt, I've been snowboarding. This is the book that I bought. Why not? Why not? I went into the show and he was like, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Because I like a heads up. Ideally, I'd like, I've got these issues. I'll go to you first.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
And for anyone that doesn't really know what Whatnot is, it's very much a comic on screen based thing. So he just puts a comic on screen like this, £1 start, and off you go. And that's how it's fast. It's
so. What did you wind up paying?
Well, whoa, ease up there. Your big Cape Town Great White.
Thought I might have caught you out. I have to guess. Bloody hell.
Oh, look. Comics and stuff. He's put it in this lovely... Wow, I am no idiot. I got myself issue 39. Probably... I was going to say top 10, but probably top 5 for instant recognition, iconic cover. Yeah. I didn't have this issue, but I know that cover.
I know it. Through the Jungle. Yes. Issue
June
39.
11th, 1985. Wow. Incredible. So, why do I know this cover? I think I might know it from the Impel trading cards.
Okay. Yeah.
Where are you? Is this a top 5 cover for you? Or is top 10 more realistic? What do you think? Why is it so iconic? Is it just me? I think this is a banger.
It's Mike Zeck doing GI Joe in the style of a Vietnam War book. Like, this is very much in the vein of the Nam.
Yeah. Now, who have we got on there? Now, this is what I love. Actually, wait. Let's not talk about the cover because first. Let me just strap in, get in my DeLorean. Wait, time circuit's on. Wait, flux capacitor, fluxing. Right, I'm gonna take you back to June 11th, 1985. So, multiplexes. I mean, this surely doesn't happen now. This is in 1 week. Goonies, A View to a Kill, Brewster's Millions, one of my personal favourites. Cocoon, another one of my personal favourites. Very obscure, interesting film. Rambo, First Blood Part 2. Such a mouthful. Chevy Chase is Fletch. Is that Chevy Chase? Fletch, or is that Tom Hanks? Or you don't even know?
I'll take your word for it, man. You had me at Rambo, First Blood Part 2.
Yeah, okay, a few interesting things coming to my head live right now. Rambo First Blood Part 2. Me and Chief copied a scene when we did a G.I. Joe setup. Oh, nice. Who did we put? It may have been Naugahyde. He was Rambo'd. He puts himself in mud in a kind of a wall, and he's got the knife and his face coming out, and he comes out and nails someone. Don't know if you're familiar with that, but we integrated that into one of our G.I. Joe setups. Another interesting fact, A View to a Kill has a great snowboarding scene in the beginning.
Well, East Coast girls are hip. Is it that?
It's just so good because what I love about Roger Moore is that you just do not believe that is Roger Moore snowboarding. You're so aware, even as a child, that the man that looks and talks like that cannot do those things.
Well, he can stand in front of a rear projector. Like just the close-up shot. He famously can't run as well. Very famously cannot run. He is dead. I'm pretty sure
but he used to have stunt doubles. He just was like, I look really strange running. And they were like, really? And he does. Anyway, number one song, one of my all-time favorites. I probably still listen to this every week. Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. Nothing really encapsulates the 80s, quite like that song for me. Toys R Us. You've had a great day out. You're going to stumble into Toys R Us. You're going to see Cabbage Patch Kids, Pillow People, Transformers, Pogo Balls. Atari had just come out, Care Bears. But if none of that is, filling your boots, go round to the other aisle where you got GI Joes. Get yourself a barbecue, an airtight and troop build Cobra Eels. You could have got those guys too, because you've just done an 85 show, and I need to check that out. Yeah, geez, your quick kick is minty, by the way.
What the hell is Pillow Pals?
It sounds a little bit dodgy, but look, stumble out of Toys R Us dripping in Cobra Eels and go to the arcade and play Gauntlet and Ghosts and Goblins. Now, Ghosts and Goblins was, I don't even think I made it past level 1. Gauntlet, I never played in the arcade, but I had it on the C64, and if you were playing 2-player, the game only ended when both of you died simultaneously. But I don't know how that worked in the arcade. I know the arcade cabinet was big and it was 4-player, but I never saw that. I was too young. Comic shop, this same Tuesday, you could have picked up Moon Knight issue 4, Marvel's answer to Batman, I don't know. Or you could have picked up Superman issue 408. That's it. We're back in 2025. That's the cultural landscape. Look, let's talk about this cover. I've got some interesting notes on this cover.
I'll be curious to hear them, Benjamin.
Benjamin is interesting. At the airport, they were like, "You really should not book these tickets," saying Ben. It causes us all kinds of problems when your passport says Benjamin.
Imagine if your passport was in Greek.
Well,
I feel your pain, dude. I can never online check in, ever.
First of all, S-Jubs, how much did I pay for this?
Oh, gosh. Whatnot. You might have gotten yourself a deal. I'm going to say £5.
Wow, dude, you're £1 off. £6.
I was thinking £6, but I said 5 because I want to lowball you.
I would say this wasn't £3 or £4 because of the cover, and it's a relatively iconic. It's pretty minty, so I think £6 was a fair price. So at episode 28, I've got 28 issues of this, running total £123.67 USD. $160. Now, out of those 28, I have had 8 beautiful donations from the community. So, how are we rating 28, $160 spent? How do you think that's tracking?
I ain't a numbers guy, but I think, if you're keeping it sub $10 a book, I think you're gold, man.
Okay, I'm gold. Right, let's get on to the... Let's get on to the cover. My notes, I think I talk about green a lot. So I've picked out 4 different shades of green, and I think it is it's the synergy of all these greens that make this such a vibrant cover. You've got the green in Stalker's beret and Ripcord's helmet. You've got the ferns in the foreground, that kind of light green. Then you've got the dark, swampy green of the jungle in the background. Then you've also got their camo. Is that green? Would you say that was green?
Grey-green, yeah.
Yeah. Ripcord's got, fern in his helmet, and that is full Nam, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah.
I just love the detail of that. And why do you think I'm getting Jurassic Park quote vibes from this cover? See if you can guess. Why, though?
Why?
Why? Something to do with there's someone in the background that no one ever
Clever
sees.
girl.
That you. Yes.
Well, you
and
see
the other two, or the other one, you didn't even know they were there.
Mm-hmm.
Something tells you might know that Roadblock was there, but he's a big lad.
Once you've made that discovery, you feel pretty smug pointing it out to everyone else. But yes,
so
he's absolutely obscured by the bright yellow GI Joe logo, and he's picked out in that kind of light blue and like monotone. Basically, he's night visioned out.
He is the link that makes this a nighttime scene for me. The fact that he is in that blue.
Mm-hmm. Sepia tones.
Yeah.
No, not sepia. What's the other one?
No, not sepia.
Not
like
sepia.
I don't know what you would call a blue.
Well, when you
I'd call that Michael Mann blue.
Michael Mann, he pioneered nighttime shooting with the high def cameras.
He pioneered nighttime shooting. Full stop. I think.
And
he was very much
that,
into
when
blue.
you did Night for Day, I'm conjuring up like old westerns and stuff like that. Or Day for Night, sorry. They would just use heavy blue filters. And there's a name for those.
Like an ND filter.
I don't know.
No, we don't know. Just get some Vaseline on your lens and go.
There you go. Nice. Yes, wonderful that we both caught wise to the fact that Roadblock is the third.
I remember when Chief told me we were talking about this cover, and for so long, I had no idea Roadblock was there.
No, you mentioned that the cover has Stalker and Ripcord on it, but like part of me has a visual confusion because of course Stalker's got a moustache, and that's picked out heavy ink style, but the foreground character also appears to have a moustache.
Okay.
Now you telling me that's a shadow?
No, I'm telling you that I've just noticed that for the first time ever.
Oh my god.
Now
that always strikes me as odd. It's a miscast. Part of me is saying that's meant to be Footloose.
Well,
Footloose has the camo helmet, and Footloose has the M16 with the sling. So
do you know what? I think I've always seen that as a shadow, but it absolutely isn't one. I don't think
never see Ripcord when I see that face.
Do you know what, dude? That really could be shadowing.
Okay.
Do you not think? Because you've got under the chin, you've got. Oh, it's difficult, isn't it?
What weapon is Ripcord armed with in the issue? Now, I'm not saying internal art should always match the cover, but I think we are totally dealing with a slightly different cast on the cover. I think Zek pulled Footloose out of the toy box, maybe thinking it was Ripcord.
Yeah.
And that's what we got.
Yeah, because nowhere in the issue is Ripcord rocking that awesome helmet.
Nope. No helmet at all, in fact.
No. Yeah, you're probably right there.
Maybe.
My
it's just a theory.
Goodness, I could do with this in a CGC 9.8. It's
Slab it up, baby.
Slab it up. I got no problem with slabbing as long as you've got the actual comic as well. You know?
Yeah.
Hey, look, we're talking about the cover, but I'm also such a big fan of this advert on the back.
Gosh, I don't have
young astronaut program. Now, this features on the back of a couple of Joe books, and it's just, I don't know, makes the mind wonder. It's beautiful. I love it.
It's Cap and, what is it, 2 members of Power Pack? Or just 2 regular kids?
No, do you know what? I just thought that was Cap and some kids, but quite possibly.
I'm not familiar with the cast of Power Pack, but I assume that they're children. Anyway, they're looking at the stars, and it is an advert for kids, aspiring to be astronauts?
Getting involved in becoming astronauts.
Wild,
for sure. I hope you got a big brain on you.
In this issue, we are dealing with a small team led by Stalker in Sierra Gordo. They are sent in to rescue Dr. Adele Burkhart again. Then in New York City, Billy has been taken under Storm Shadow's wing and is being taught in swordplay and chess and philosophy. All the while, Cobra has some interesting machinations happening over in New Orleans. And that's the broad strokes of issue 39.
Now, what's the issue? Is that a throwback to issue 1 with Burkhart?
Yes, she's gotten herself into hot water again.
Yeah. So she has not been seen then for 38 issues. Is that correct?
Correct.
Wow. So that's a fair couple of years. That's a big throwback, really. When you're picking up this book. What
but
great,
she is a great
first
vehicle.
image.
Yeah. Oh, the splash page. Let's talk about that.
Isn't it just joyous? And that is massively channeling Special Missions for me, because you're just thrown into midway through something.
They are rappelling down a sheer cliff face because it's the one weak spot, quote unquote, in this enemy bunker's position. Enemy bunker, the counter-revolutionaries of Sierra Gordo, the sort of militant, sort of armed takeover boys. They've got this bunker. They're holding Burkhart inside it, and all their guns, all their watchtowers are kind of pointing outwards because they don't think anyone's dumb enough to rappel down this sheer cliff.
When you see those floodlights, those watchtowers, you can imagine them moving around. It always makes me think of early video games where as soon as you go into one of those spots, that you've triggered something and you've got to start again.
Metal Gear Solid, man.
Yeah, it really makes me think of that. Very Metal Gear Solid.
I think of Pierce Brosnan's first outing as Bond. We were on the topic of Bond earlier, and
GoldenEye?
this kind of GoldenEye. Well, he does a big sort of bungee basically off a damn wall. But this, you can hear that GoldenEye underscore.
Oh yeah, dude! My favorite music from that video game is the watch music, the pause music. It is iconic. Yeah, it's joyous. In fact, after I'm done with this, I'm going to go for my run and I'm going to listen to that and pretend. Now, look, I've always felt like with this issue, I just felt like, bless him, Gung Ho's ruining the freaking synergy of their look.
The blue.
In his, yeah. I just love how they all look, and it's like, oh, Gung Ho, come on, switch it up.
The synergy of everyone's toy box, like aquamarine.
Well, he is look. He's marine, and you got to play with him coming off a frigate or a boat. He belongs.
But it's too blue. It's too blue.
It is.
I took the 25th anniversary Gung Ho and I kind of dulled his blue into a more green.
But look, if you want to just, I don't know why, but there's a moment with Gung Ho in this issue that just is always stuck out for me, and it's this beautiful snap knee kick he does to this dude, but it's like ballet. It's beautiful. It's actually very Roger Moore.
It's very Rod Wiggum as well.
It's just the fact that he extends and he snaps that leg.
He's got a pointed boot.
Yes. It's not very marine-like at all.
No, in stomp fact, would have been more, or a knee or something.
It's because you don't need to follow through and have that photo moment, but he does. Because why would you point your toe?
and emotion flex. Lines. I mean, it's a beautiful.
My daughter has a lot of.
Cloche.
She does a lot of
your daughter
ballet.
In ballet class?
Well, she does all sorts. She does contemporary ballet, and they have this thing where they do like I can't remember which way round it is, but it's like naughty toes, good toes, naughty toes, and it's like Gung Ho's having that internal moment because he's had so much ballet training.
Mm-hmm. Point your toes.
Yeah.
Harder.
but just to sort of cut back to what these guys are doing, it's beautiful. I mean, at first few pages it reads like silent interlude, no dialogue for a little bit. You've got Roadblock doing the classic 80s two villain clonk. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? It's a great way to take out two chumps.
Notice that he's rappelling down a cliff face fully loaded for bear with his Marduce. And at one point, he goes into a free fall. He falls to the ground before clonking these guys on the head with this fucking thing strapped to his back. Like,
I mean,
the man's knees must have exploded at that point.
do you think that they're repelling a little bit day one entry level there? Because I feel like if it was a crack team, they'd be running down.
Ooh.
You know, when you see people do that, it looks so sick. They're just feeding the rope, but they're actually running down. I suppose they don't need to do it fast, but
Yeah, they're playing it safe. They're playing it quiet.
yeah, quiet and safe. And
There's a lovely moment, though, where...
I know what you're going to say.
So the two snipers that are sort of the base commanders are picking through the aftermath of the Joe's departure.
Yeah.
And they say, like, if this was British SAS, we'd be dead.
Yes.
If this was Israeli special forces, we still wouldn't have even known that they'd come through. So it, like, puts GI Joe in this pecking order that they're good, but they're not the best. And they're not, like, extremely the best.
But it's interesting that they pulled out those two factions, because I remember in the playground, I don't know why or how, but everyone used to say, oh yeah, the SAS, they're the best, they're the best. But people also used to say about the Israeli, like, special forces were insane. So I don't know how or why, but they were known to be, you know,
I
very
guess they
good.
had to be, because they are embroiled in a stalemated forever war.
When you were going to pick something out, I thought you were going to pick out the Takaro Indians.
Oh, okay.
Because they're at the top. Are they essentially the counter lever for the abseiling?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, that's wild in itself. So they're controlling the descent speed.
Well, look, they could have used some kind of pulley system to just take the weight off a little bit. Something crude. I mean, the only information we get is that they pull the ropes up after the Joes have made their descent. So they're clearly not going to go back the same way they came. They're going to brazen it out, try and go out the front door.
I mean, there's another... We keep making James Bond parallels, but why not? Because the hatch opening, out pops the guy, cafe? That is pure James Bond, or even kind of like Spielbergian.
It's comedy.
It's
great. Very Spielbergian. And the fact that, like, this sort of like comical race to catch the coffee pot and 2 cups, and then the other 2 cups before they clatter to the ground. Like, you think all this violence and subduing
that's like
guys
farce,
and people
isn't it?
Well, yes, dropping onto this steel bunker with a Mardus on your back. You think there's heavier shit hitting the deck than a coffee pot.
I would have liked to have seen one panel where they actually enjoy that coffee. I think that would have been nice.
This issue does a fair bit of cutting away. Because at least twice, Recondo is left to go solo on this mission to do some nasty shit, and all we see is the aftermath. Yeah. So he descends in the sort of the coffee porter's uniform into the chamber below and frees Dr. Burkhardt. Single-handedly.
They discover him with a knife.
Yeah.
And she says, well, no, and then so he doesn't use the knife, and she says, don't ask. As in, it was so horrific. It's just, crazy there. What do you think?
Well, my first thought is obviously he's using, like, non-lethal methods. But if he's doing something more horrific to these guards and this doctor than a knife could do, I don't know, maybe he's gouging their eyeballs out with his thumbs. Look, they're clearly incapacitated enough to not be a bother. So maybe he snapped some necks.
Well, look, you're reading that, you're into it, you're fully on board with this little scene. How do you feel about a jump cut to elsewhere? How do you feel about that? Then all of a sudden we're thrust into Storm Shadow teaching Billy.
How do I feel? Because I knew this issue from before, I felt quite good about the change of pace. But maybe if I hadn't read it.
Well, exactly. This is where it's like, this is not special missions. This is, we're in continuity. We've got to take care of all these different bits. And yet, this issue, like, I feel like we've had a string of winners. There haven't been any stinkers in recent memory. And this issue is definitely a high watermark because
we get a conclusive end to that Sierra Gordo mission. The whole time I was paging through this book, I was like, how can you get all this extra plot and still reach the end? Surely this is going to bleed over into the next issue and we won't have a satisfying read for this week's Chasing Joe. But no, it concludes the mission. They get out. And yet you've got all this this sidebar with Billy and Storm Shadow, which is all very good. And seems to show off, like Larry's clearly showing off that he knows a thing or two about sword fighting. He knows about chess. He knows about philosophy. And how
Can we talk about the chess? Can we talk about the chess? So they are having an internal chess game between their minds, where they've got the chessboard, they've logged all the pieces, and they are moving pieces. I mean, that is wild. I don't think I've ever seen that done. It's incredible.
Well, the thing is, you're not seeing anything done. It's all happening in their minds.
But meanwhile,
not a physical chess set around.
They're jumping out of like a water tower thing. They're doing, crazy stuff whilst they're playing this very calm chess game between themselves. It's great. Yeah,
great lines coming out of this.
Yeah,
about the nature of violence and why do we learn combat? To abolish combat, the need for it. The more you learn, the more you can set it aside, and you don't need to resort to violence.
Oh God, I'm just flicking through. This is a great issue. You're right. There's so much in it. Before we catch up with Cobra Commander, Destro, and Baroness, can we just talk about such a Sunday night MacGyver kind of scene where they've got to get across this river, and you just get these joyous panels of like Roadblock chopping down the timber, and you can just imagine the montage music going over this. This is almost like A-Team style. Yeah, they're pulling ropes around trees. They're all kind of working together to get across this. Well, it's like rapids. They spend a while on it. They spend, the majority of the end of the book just getting across. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you like that scene? I love that.
I think what sells it for me is the banter. Gung Ho ribbing Roadblock because Roadblock was a choir boy. He got pulled out of the Scouts because his mom wanted to be in the choir, and he had a uniform with like frilly lace. Like you can imagine like a pre-teen Roadblock in a choir with a frilly like choir boy outfit.
But look, is this Ripcord diving in? He's getting down to his Johnny Rottens.
Now, when did he get selected for that? I felt like I missed something. Like, did Stalker just give him a skew glance and be like, "You're the guy who's going to swim this wild water"?
No, he just does that. He just gets in.
To do it. It's like, I'm the man for this job.
But it's a great look. He's just a man that can get things done.
And once again, Rod Wigham's immaculately pointed toes.
Yeah. I just like that as a kid, problem solving on a very basic level. Nice.
Perfect form on the dive. You have no idea how deep this river is, Ripcord.
Yeah, also, it's meant to be so treacherous that you can't cross the thing.
Well, I think they're thinking about the lowest common denominator. Yeah, it's all for Adele Burkhart's... And also to keep themselves dry. Like, they've got heavy gear. Ripcord was able to cross that river because he's a man in his skivvies, just swimming hard, with like a thin rope in his mouth. Like he said, he cannot cross it with the standard Ranger rope.
Yeah, standard issue Ranger rope. Just cutting back to Storm Shadow and Billy, when they meet these street punks, fake dreadnoks, are we just thinking that Billy's expression and stare is so intimidating and so scary that they just leave him alone?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Interesting. How old is Billy meant to be here?
This is... I think Billy kind of does a sort of Benjamin Button or whatever it is. No, a Jack. That's it.
Okay.
With Robin Williams, and sort of has a burst of accelerated aging. Because a few issues ago, really, at this point, he was trying to assassinate his daddy, and he looked very childlike.
Yeah.
Now he looks like a young teen, or mid-teen. He looks about 15.
Yeah. It's cool that they just put that red stark background on for his 100-yard stare.
The intensity, like the training has really gotten to him and like aged him up. Because when I see him next to Tommy, he still has a kid's stature.
Yeah.
I guess it's just the way Rod has illustrated him in that intense panel that like ages him up. So he's having the same effect on us as the reader as he is on those punks.
But sometimes when things happen in your life, you can age in other ways, like an old soul. He is a kid, but he's seen some things. And he's also being trained as a ninja.
He's the frickin' Winter Soldier. Not just yet, but when he gets cybernetic. Yeah, man. Billy.
Yeah.
Wish they'd made that action figure.
Yeah. Wow, maybe there's still time, S-Jubs.
Come on, Super 7. Well, look, let me not stand corrected. There has been at least one. I think it's a collector's club.
Okay.
Yeah. But I want an O-ring style. I want him to hang out with Storm Shadow.
Yeah. Maybe a Storm Shadow like that, though. Not in his garb. Oh my God, what a great twin pack that would be.
And
training.
Storm Shadow's water tower hideout as a...
Do you ever wish you got more of that? What am I trying to say? Do you ever wish that you got
different
toys?
Looks.
Well, toys that were scenes from the different media sources, kind of like when Sunbow was in full effect, you'd
Probably
get something.
Not.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why?
Okay.
Because Star Wars did it, and boy oh boy, how many Hans did we buy? And how many Lukes did we buy? And how many Leias did we buy? Like Luke from Jedi with the flapped closed, and Luke from Jedi with the flap open, and it's tedious, man. Give me a definitive version.
They were sort of bound to that, though, weren't they? Because obviously they had so many characters they could do for Imperials, but they were, what are you going to do with the Rebels?
Keep doing the heroes over and over again.
Yeah.
Look, I'm happy with the alternate versions that we got during the classic run. I think
I would have liked those, but I would have liked special things where the card art is different and things like that, like very specific. I would have really enjoyed that.
Right. This is a scene that I could see like classified plumbing the depths of.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure now
50 or more figures deep, and
but so I think what I'm more saying is I would have liked an Arise Serpenta Arise playset or something like that. Something that tied in.
Well, it seems to be Super 7's wheelhouse to then do cartoon-specific scenes.
Yeah. It's kind of how I really liked purchasing the ceremonial Starscream. It's a 20-30 second scene, but it's interesting. It changes how you play with that toy. It changes everything. It's almost like that toy is different because all of this stuff is baked in and it wants to be played this way.
So funny you should mention cartoons being sort of creative source for action figure looks. Like right now, there is a Mastervice impetus in Classified. You're getting Mastervice specific appearances of characters. Snake Eyes with irradiated hands and a massive polar bear, and he comes with an element. And Breaker comes with another Mastervice element. And these two divers, like Joe and a Cobra diver from the series, from that miniseries, with another element, and they are scene specific. Like they were not seen like that in many other cartoons. I think, Joe's used that yellow diving suit again, but very sparingly. In any case, they do definitely use the cartoon as strong influence. Yeah.
Do you think when you were reading, if you were reading these in real time back in the day, would you be seeing characters in the comic book before you had the toy? Or were the toys already sort of released and maybe the comic book was the other way around? Because basically what I'm saying is it would have been exciting to read the comic book, see like Airtight and Barbecue for the first time, and then run out and wow, they're in the store. Like,
did you read the letters page from this issue? You might find your answer there.
Wait, I did read a couple actually. I read the one about. I thought it was interesting. The girl asking for more female Joes. She's saying, "Oh, I love Lady J."
Good.
And they reply, and they say, "Oh, we're working on something for Cobra." I don't know who that would have been. Was that Zorana? I think it probably would have.
Yeah,
was.
Zorana will make an appearance shortly. But
sorry, so what letter? Which one are you talking about?
Dear Joes, I guess we'll underestimate the recklessness and ruthlessness of the Dreadnoks. I, for one, thought that they were just stupid pawns that Zartan had picked up to do his dirty work for him. Now I see I was wrong. Speaking of Dreadnoks, the cover of issue 35 was brilliant. It perfectly complemented the action within the issue itself. By the way, and this is the part that I wanted to get to, is the new Snake Eyes figure going to have Timber with it? Also, can you buy Zartan without the chameleon? I would also like to see a little more of Lady J, and don't stop the Zartan. So, this particular writer, Lisa, another female, well, someone called Lisa, maybe female, maybe male, who knows? She says that they say that Snake Eyes hasn't been seen in their region yet, and this is in 1985. So like maybe distribution was a bit scrappy. Like we always assume availability right through the year. But maybe in some parts of the US or wherever Lisa is writing from, Auburn Hills, Michigan, she had not seen Snake Eyes yet. So the second version.
I struggled to find this out online, but I wanted to know the release schedule traditionally for a line was what month? Was it the summer? Was it the fall? When were GI Joe releasing their series?
If I was to guess...
So for example, 1985's lot of figures came out when?
Oh, man. I'm pretty sure they would have done the whole wave all in one go, but when in the year? Like, is it as soon as possible? Like January, February? And have that stuff sitting around at retail for a year?
I think it's more the fall for Christmas. I think
I was going to say that maybe the big ticket items only roll out then. Like a USS Flag, you're only going to really push that.
So maybe figures for summer and then...
the easier purchases, and then towards the end of the year, Thanksgiving, or Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, you'd get your big boys.
I tell you what, this is a great one. I'm going to read this one out because this is incredible. Dear Joes, why have you made G.I. Joe so boring? It is all about one thing, and it is so boring and unrealistic. Nobody but Cobra gets killed. The 34th and 35th issues stunk. Also, why have you raised the price of G.I. Joe? Tom, jeez. The reply is great. With friends like you, who needs Cobra?
All right, there we go.
I mean, what the heck though? What he wants what I don't know what deaths he wants. He wants civilian. He wants more collateral damage. I mean,
I love it. I love it. You know, when people troll my YouTube videos, I like it and I pin it to the top because I'm like,
yeah. Effectively, that is what they've done. They've pinned, that's come through, and they've been like, oh, that's going in.
Trial by public opinion, my friend.
Yeah.
You will rally your supporters to your cause if you throw these Looney Tunes up. Like, honestly, why do you read it then, Tom?
I know.
Why have you made G.I. Joe so boring?
That's it, and he says it stunk. That's such a good.
It's not the 80s. Only negative. Yeah, that's a lovely turn of phrase. It's not the only negative letter that's been pulled up for this issue. This guy's like, number 24 was the first one I sincerely didn't like. For one thing, Russ Heath didn't draw it very well. Now, history has been very kind to issue 24, the only one illustrated by Russ Heath, because I think the art is fantastic, and most most hardcore fans would probably agree with me. Russ Heath was responsible for the style sheets, the designs of all the cartoon characters.
Oh,
so
wow.
like he had his stamp all over Sunbow, and as a result, issue 24 is showing off exactly what Russ Heath can do with those designs.
Yeah. So he was just filling in for one issue.
For one issue, and it's like, wow, this looks different, and this looks amazing.
I tell you what, though, that can be jarring when you're used to because the art and the writing
Osberg and I think at that point Wiggum had maybe done one or two. No, I think it was Look, he goes on to slate Frank Springer, saying like 25 was okay, but 27's art was, face it, bad. It seems like Springer was drawing with the shivers.
Oh, we've got an older dude writing in here because no kid is
critiquing art.
No, maybe. This sounds like a comic book guy. That's kind of he's reading a lot of comic books and he's very much into the art. Well, yes, okay.
It does. That your theory does wash. I could see you. You ought to make GI Joe even weirder, like the New Mutants. I know it would scare off the action figure buyers, but it would also get older readers onto this truly good comic.
I mean,
this guy wants to take a swipe at me.
Yeah, he's 45 in 1985. He's probably not even with us anymore.
Putting it in perspective, he probably was just a little bit older than the toy buying public. And that's why he's so vitriolic and like on his high horse. He's like, I'm not a kid anymore. That's my theory.
He could have also been confused to what the job of this comic book was. Everything else he was reading were pure comic books that served no other purpose. You're not shifting new mutant toys.
No,
whereas G.I. Joe, this is... The role of this book was extremely focused, and there's no, this was a tie-in, transmedia, maybe one of the first of its kind, 360 selling toys, cartoons, the whole lot. So Sunbow was doing the rounds in 85, wasn't it?
For sure. September of 85, you were about to see the Pyramids of Darkness.
Oh... Yeah, great one.
And that was the gateway into the daily cartoon episodes.
Man, if you were into Joe then, you had it coming out of your taps. All media formats covered. The cartoon, the comic, and the toys. The holy trinity, the trifecta.
Speaking of trifecta, Pyramids of Darkness, these three boys were the goons, the comic relief.
Yes.
Quick Kick, Alpine, and Bazooka. They got their starring role.
You educated me to the fact that Alpine was a US exclusive. So this begs the question.
For sure anymore. I've been contradicted on a number of occasions, but I don't think he was available for purchase in your neck of the woods.
But I don't necessarily... I understand that concept now in sort of today's market more than I understand giving different territories exclusive figures back then, because I'm sort of trying to think of a reason why they would make certain figures exclusive to certain regions when it wasn't such an open market then anyway. Like, you basically lived behind an iron curtain. You only knew what existed from what was in the shop. There was no like, oh, this is coming soon. It was like, oh, there's new figs out.
Maybe it was dictated by sales figures. Maybe they had information on like...
Really?
And Alpine might have been a bit more of an expensive figure to produce, thanks to all the paint applications and the additional gear, the rope.
Hey, man, there's a good show that Joburg... Has Joburg ever done... like
market
I don't know,
analysis.
just exclusive figs, European Spirit, European Psych Out.
We touch upon them
is there something,
when they come up.
But I wonder if you pulled all of them together, is there anything linking the characters, or is it just utterly random?
Well, you do notice some patterns emerging.
Like, why is that European spirit? Why? That doesn't make any sense. He's a Native American.
None whatsoever. Look, I guess they needed to usher him into the 1980. It was the 1991 series at that point.
Slaughters, Marauders as well.
They've just gotten the mold back from South America, where those Slaughters, Marauders figures were produced, and I guess
that was something I learned way later in life. That my lowlight, who I just thought was a version 2, I guess.
Okay.
I just thought he looks amazing. Because how would I have known back then if that was part of a Tiger Force-esque splinter group? There was no way I could have gained that information, that knowledge. Because those didn't exist. It's kind of made me feel a little bit differently about him. He's not quite as unique as I want him to be now.
I think there are some distinctions. I think it's probably a nicer pour of the plastic.
Do you reckon?
Those Slaughters Marauders figures are famous for losing thumbs.
What?
Whereas, I think UK lowlight or European lowlights you're probably in better hands there. Literally.
Interesting. How do you knee-jerk feel about those guys? Kind
Slaughters
of indifferent?
Marauders.
Yeah.
I think the Equalizer is an excellent tank. That is the Mauler chassis, but with a sort of anti-aircraft turret on top. So 2 cannon and then 6 missile launchers or tubes. That's an exquisite piece. The rest, take it or leave it. I prefer the originals are stronger in every case. Like the Armadillo slaps missiles on the back, but then it looks very back heavy. And the Lynx, it's got a Mauler cannon on it, but the tank seems puny to support a big gun.
So this is interesting. You're saying that they've actually mashed up the vehicles.
Yeah, to give you something slightly new, slightly different.
Yeah, so that's a first then.
But the Equalizer comes out on top not only because it's significant in its size, but because it guts out the battery-operated feature of the Mauler, so you can finally free-roll the tank. It's got dummy wheels.
Very
that's
cool.
Nice. Also, it one-ups the Mauler.
Rubber tracks or
no. Plastic molded tracks with dummy wheels underneath. I'm all for that. Actually, I find Maulers are hard to play with because either the battery feature works, in which case you're always obligated to switch it on and have this noisy thing running, or you're
Come on, though, when you're a kid and your toy moves without you pushing it, you cannot believe it. You just can't.
That's why I love Dino Riders. You just set them off and they'd kind of lumber across the room.
I mean, the Mauler, my Mauler wasn't killing things with its cannon. It was killing them by rolling over them. And well, I think I did quite a little bit of like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade play with that.
Of course.
The only thing is it didn't have
to have a fight on top of.
It didn't have exposed tracks on the top side, so you couldn't do that dream kind of holding on. Yeah.
The Equalizer also has an occupant, a third occupant. Like you can put a figure in the turret, which the Mauler cannot.
Yeah. Well, we have drifted right off the comic book. Is there anything else you'd like to say about this comic? So after we've got the joyous MacGyver moment, we do see a little bit of Duke and Lady J.
They are sweating candy apple.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. That is what they're doing.
Her down.
Good cop, bad cop, or?
Lady J's first line is, "I think Candy's telling the truth, Duke." So good cop.
Good cop.
And Duke's like, "I don't buy it, Lady J. If her father was a Crimson Guardsman, she must have known about it." So yeah, bad cop. Very good.
I like her look with that kind of what is that? Not a headband, but like a very
it's absolutely a headband.
Well, yeah, but it's like a very 70s. I could do with getting something like that.
Yeah, and hitting the gym in your lycra.
I'll hit the gym however I want. I want to just go to my gym and like it be like almost like a nightmare scape where I go in and it's empty and you just like you see someone and it's Big Boa just in there with that, all that helmet, some kind of weird breathing noise. You got to make Big Boa terrifying, don't you think? You got to make him scary with maybe some lights. Look, everyone knows Big Boa is just one of my absolute all-times. I don't know how we've gotten to Big Boa from that page, but we've done it.
You clearly need to hit the gym. That's what you're angling for.
We better check in with Cobra Commander as well, because he does appear in this issue. Hooded Cobra Commander.
Good panels. Love how Baroness is drawn. Love how Destro is drawn.
Yeah. Geez, actually, dude, they feature on one page.
Yep.
Yeah,
and it's a solid page. I mean, a low angle, sort of worm's eye view on Cobra Commander shaking his fist.
The deep under Springfield. Yeah. And then, I mean, the way Destro's been drawn there is interesting. He almost looks like he's got a head like a bowling ball. You're gonna put your fingers in there. Strike! He's kind of halfway mask, halfway expressions, and yeah.
Well, Wiggum, did make Destro more expressive. Definitely
Baroness
didn't shy
has been
away.
Drawn fantastically well there. That sort of suit she's wearing is so cool. Badass. Badass. Anytime you get the Cobra insignia on a chest, it's just great. That's where it should be.
Corset chest.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the reasons I absolutely adore the cesspool figure, because it's just a return to that balls out the bath. I'm Cobra.
Embossed, no less.
Yeah. So, I suppose the issue to me, does that cover, you don't get that scene. You don't get that kind of sneaking through the jungle, like, what are these guys up to? You never really get the payoff that cover promises, but that doesn't really matter.
I think you get the payoff without the build-up, Ben.
Yeah, maybe.
You can assume that what is happening on that cover is in the preceding moments before, like they reach the jungle clearing.
Yeah,
and they're looking. There's the edge of this cliff face, and we better secure our lines and then reel them out nice and slow. Like they are looking out and possibly down.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, they could be at the precipice of like the cliff.
So you can incorporate the sneaking sections into your understanding of where this issue kicks off. Because we are cutting straight to the repelling. I mean, this issue does absolutely deliver one hell of a kick-ass firefight.
Yes.
All the sneaking stuff is done, like trying to escape this base, and then when they're found out. Like, we didn't touch upon it earlier, but the snipers in the sort of command tower, they're like
they waste the native Indians.
Yeah, totally, man. But what tips them off is they say, it's the changing of the guard, and what of it? And the other guy's like, yeah, it's the right time for the changing of the guard, but it's the wrong number. You don't send 4 men or you don't send 6 men to relieve only 4. So, whoopsie, GI Joe put a foot wrong there.
Yeah, the kind of firefight takes place over 2 pages, and they're visceral pages for sure.
Yeah, it's intense.
That's fun.
Oh, something else. These guys are Sierra Gordons, right? So they all have Latin American sort of stylings. But our sniper pair are armed with Soviet sniper rifles, and their names are Gregor and Dmitry. Are we assuming these are Russian mercenaries or Soviet troops who are kind of seconded to the Sierra Gordon counter-revolutionary cell?
I don't know, but I love how slightly oversized those sniper rifles are. They are packing
mongrel
serious punch. And it's cool how we get the two like red filtered sights over Stalker and Gung Ho.
80s shorthand for what night vision looks like. Because I've seen night vision; it doesn't look like that.
No, night vision is impossible to do justice. Drawing it, yeah,
just blotchy white,
kind of two-tone
blue.
There's something very James Bond base about where they are, though, where they're shooting from, out of that little rectangle kind of hatch. Just feels, you're so right, it does feel like GoldenEye, this whole base.
Yeah.
It really does.
And cleverly, I mean, obviously Rod's responsible for the arts, but I'd like to think maybe Larry thumbnailed it or gave him strong direction in terms of just nailing the geography of everything in the splash page. So you can kind of situate where you are later on. This splash page acts as like a map that will give you an idea of where the Joes are in the action sequence when we really punch in close to the characters.
Yeah, something you can probably take for granted when you're reading a comic. If you understand the geography of things without having to really think about it, that's been done on purpose, and that's done its job. The second you get confused about where the characters are in relation to, it's possibly poor panel design, but this issue is flawless from that regard.
We get philosophical moments from Storm Shadow and Billy, obviously, but like Stalker is the one who brings the heavy politics right at the end. Because Adele Burkhardt is upset about how many people had to suffer because of her stupidity or her mistake in coming to this country and trying to do good work. And like Ripcord's laying into her saying, "Thanks a heap, Miss Goody Two Shoes. Nobody asked you to come down here and stir up trouble." And Stalker shuts him up. "At ease, troop. Nobody asked you to sign up for this duty. What you did what you thought was right. Get this through your head. We're not fighting to have everybody think the way we do. We're fighting so that people can have the right to think the way they want, even if they don't agree with us." Like, that's the system.
That's pure Larry there. I mean, that might as well just be Larry talking, and Ripcord is the kind of petulant youngling, almost.
Yeah.
Stalker's showing his maturity and his age there, I think.
And yet, Stalker's probably maybe in his late 30s.
Yeah.
If that. But like, he is the moral center of GI Joe. Always has been. Anytime he's leading the mission, I shut up and listen. I don't have the same response to Flint or Duke or Hawk. Stalker is something special in GI Joe.
Yeah, do you think that's because there's a little bit of Stalker's backstory, so he's been there, he's done that?
I just think
his words have more weight.
Yeah, maybe. Look, I don't know, man. I just think he's so ethical in his dealing with these heated situations, whereas I see in Flint, he's a bit cocky. That's always been a part of his character. He's got more, I suppose, obvious flaws, character flaws. And Duke, poster boy, bad cop, as you say. Like, he's got a hard edge. Stalker he just offers such a balanced view.
Well, hard exterior, but he's, Look, I tell you what, there's a lot of bubbles on that page, but look at the bubble count on this page. You can tell it's a book from the 80s because you just don't really get that anymore. That is a huge chunk of exposition from Recondo there.
Getting your money's worth.
Yeah, no, you read, but I read a lot of comics at the moment, and it is quick and succinct and moves on. Like, these are large bubbles here, in my opinion. I don't know if they stuck out to you, but different styles, different books. I know that a lot of the 80s X-Men books were extremely wordy.
I have been known to kind of groan at the more wordy books by Larry. This one ain't one of them.
No, I don't think so either. It's only a few panels.
It's doing so many interesting different things. And
I
feel enriched by everything. whether he's waxing philosophical or whether he's talking about the standard Ranger nylon rope. Like the detail that we are being treated to. It's a real think piece. Issue 39 brings a lot.
It brings a lot. It brings Cover Girl at the end.
Yeah. I mean, just cameo.
I mean, channeling. Yes, Bond. That's a. I mean, geez, Cover Girl. The hair.
Would you like anything before we take off, Mr. Bond?
Jeez. Yeah. And Larry's favorite, Wild Bill, pops up.
Yeehaw!
Yeah.
Great. Soaking up that panel.
Yeah.
For a man who always wears a Stetson, Wild Bill has a great head of hair.
Oh, he's got a toothpick in there as well.
Oof.
Has he? No.
Well,
yes.
It's not a cigarello.
Yeah, but it's been sort of coloured the same as his skin, so it's confusing.
It is.
But, look, it's a joyous issue. It's in my collection now. Quickly, do you have this issue? Does it mean anything to you? Are you nostalgic for it? When did you pick it up? Or do you need to pick it up?
Yeah, I need to pick it up at some point. It'll find its way to me.
I'm sure. Well, it might not. You might have to actively look.
I'm a great believer in patience.
See, I thought this one would have been in your collection because of the cover.
Look, Ben, if I was headhunting these things, issue 39 would be up on top of a list. But as and when it comes into my crosshairs, my man.
Hang on a minute. Sorry, viewer. I know what you're all thinking. Don't sign off. You haven't smelt the thing yet. Jeez, it's another one of these medicinal ones. It's another plasters, bandages. You know, when you open up not your own medical box where you keep plasters and bandages, but maybe like your parents' one that's a bit older.
One in the school gym.
Yeah. You don't want to scrape a knee at school because their stuff is proper World War II bandages.
Wow.
It's another medicinal one. Not one of my favourite smells at all, actually. Not going to lie. I've got some friends that really like ales that have that kind of aroma. I'm like, I don't want to drink something that smells like bandages.
Grim.
Yeah.
What?
Are you guys into ales?
Certainly not ales that taste like bandages.
It's a real thing, for sure.
I love an ale. I seldom have it staring me in the face. Most pubs around here, a pale ale might be on tap. But
yeah, well, they're pretty trendy these days, aren't they? IPAs and overpriced.
Different taste.
Yeah.
When I'm sick of a lager or a stout.
This comic run appeals to different tastes, and I would say I thoroughly enjoyed that book. I'm chuffed that I got it for £6 off of Whatnot.
Yeah, man.
I did buy a couple of others, so we'll tuck into those next week. Where are you, by the way? I haven't even asked.
Oh, I'm in Brizzy.
Oh, you're back in Brizza.
Back
Fantastic.
sweating my balls off in Briz.
Really? Is it quite hot, is it? It's always
cold.
hot. It's always hot in Brizza. Jeez, I had some nights out in Brisbane. Jeez, my
Battle
God.
of Brisbane.
The Battle of Brisbane is a famous one.
They still sing songs in your honor, BenFlyingRetro.
Yeah, I came into that city hot. Jeez.
Damn it.
Right, well, I've got to bust one. I've got to take these goggles off because it ain't snowing in Bournemouth and I've got to go for a run.
Yes,
but if you want to hear more from me...
And neither does Chasing Joe.
No, I don't.
28 episodes.
I came close to skipping a beat in the Alps. I was having to snowboard until like 4:30, 5 p.m. and then Phoenix got to come back and just lie down and relax, and I had to do a couple of stretches, and I'm off for a 4-mile run in the French Alps where the air is thinner than cellophane.
So
on the first day,
on the slopes can't act as a substitute for your running challenge. You have to run every single day
Yeah, until I get 1,000. Until I get 1,000. I'm at day 460 something.
And then you retire your knees for life.
Everyone says that. What then? I don't know. I just want 1,000. But these were some tough runs. That first one on day 1,
Don't break yourself. Ben.
Did question myself.
Another 150 issues to get through.
Yeah, what you're worried that I could damage myself and then I wouldn't be able to do the pod.
Stranger things have happened.
They sure have. Right. Anyway,
let's get out of here.
Yeah, I'm going for a run. But look, if you want to hear more from me, I do a podcast with my wife. It's quite interesting. It's called People Who Play, and it is available on Substack, where you stack your subs. Follow me on Instagram, BenFlyingRetro. Do you know what? I'm going to listen to the show that I've just seen that you've released, 1985. That looks great. Ooh, it's a long one as well. So you just decided to dissect that series of figures that was released then?
'Tis the 40th anniversary.
That would do it.
2025. So 40 years ago, guys like Shipwreck, guys like Footloose, were clogging up toy aisles if you were in a lucky enough place to stock them.
It's a very iconic release for sure.
Would you argue the most iconic?
I would do, but I don't know how much of my bias is baked in with that because it's, Airtight, Barbecue, Quick Kick were kind of Shipwreck were, my earliest figures. So, how it almost feels like series 1 for me in a strange way. Yeah. Also, I absolutely love the fact that, your first vehicle purchase was a tiger paw, correct?
Correct.
Mine was the ferret, the Cobra ferret. I just love that we've got that synergy going on.
That is a good point to agree upon.
Like,
what an amazing
apart.
Well,
look, it's the fang all over. Every toy line needs the accessible vehicles from a monetary point of view. When you're in the toy shop, Mom, I want that. But it's like, something small in the UK, you can have that. You can't have the Tomahawk, you idiot. You got to wait till Christmas. But I'll get you the ferret. It's like,
There are less complex helicopters than the ferret or tiger paw. That is one hell of an ATV.
Yeah, it's amazing. Rubber wheels? Give me a break.
Movable front steering. The linkage between the gun and the steering column. The hose on the side. So much
play packed into that thing. And
pseudo suspension.
I just wonder if, I played with that range of vehicle probably more than the high ticket ones. Sometimes because they were sort of so special that you'd get into the weeds with those vehicles and discover things in a way that you wouldn't with the big ones. I don't know. They were just so exciting and big that you kind of played with them one way, but they were your bread and butter. That line of vehicle, the kind of 10 to 20 pound vehicle. Oh, joyous. I mean, that's what everyone's collection was really made up of. Really.
For sure.
Because that was the question I had for you just before we go. I wanted to know. I wanted to know what commanded the bigger vehicle for you, your birthday or Christmas? Because for me, Christmas was much, much bigger. I could request a bigger Joe vehicle at Christmas than I could have for my birthday. My birthday was more about I would get maybe like 8 figures or something. But birthdays weren't really about big vehicles like Rolling Thunder, Tomahawk, things like that. They were very much Christmas based. Do you fall into that line, or maybe even the other way around?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same vein. Christmas, because of the need to populate the underneath of the tree. Like parents, we're parents now. We feel that pressure. to like get your
I've
kid
massively
a big box.
carried that through. Yeah,
Oh,
like
of course.
birthdays in our they are celebrated, of course, but they're not necessarily, just like truckloads of presents. Really, they're quite kind of small and just nice.
But I will
think it makes
recall with some
Christmases more special.
fondness that, yeah, of course, Christmases have to be, and it's kind of a joy for the gift receiver and the gift giver. Whereas birthdays, your parents getting you your stuff, or if you throw a party. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. I do recall a 14th birthday, which is perhaps way too old to be getting GI Joe stuff.
Oh, I
was
don't
when
know. I
got-
think go
I
on.
got my Thunderclap and my Sky Raven that birthday.
My goodness.
Big
wow. Good
But
one.
I was old enough to command what I got. So the one I got as a gift from mom and dad, the other I got with my pocket change. Well, not pocket change, the money that I got from my party, from other friends.
Yeah, that's something that I'm quite interested in, when you don't necessarily get a say in what vehicle you would get for Christmas, and
I always had a say.
Well, no, I'm sorry. You have a say because you put your list in, but I'm just sort of picturing my mum in the toy aisle, surrounded by all of these vehicles. I wonder why she probably thought, oh, he might like that because of this. That's quite interesting.
You kicked it old school, Ben. I honestly was in the toy shop with my parents, and I was like, that Cobra Bug, please, can Father Christmas bring that for me?
Look, I've told you that my mum worked in a bank nationwide in Fordingbridge, and back then I'd come home from school and we'd let ourselves in at a very young age, and we would ring her up at the bank, and other people would answer, and I'd be like, oh, can I speak to my mum? It was so kind of small town casual, and I'd say, could you just cross the street and pick me up to Iron Grenadiers because I'm troop building?
I really need those alley
Yeah.
vipers. Please,
And she'd come home with them. Oh, it's just great times. But look, this house is
wasn't a
about
big
to get
ask.
busy.
It
So I'm
wasn't a
gonna
big ask
go.
because GI Joe was as ubiquitous as Hot Wheels.
Yeah, totally.
They were not expensive toys.
Cheaper than the cheapest sort of Lego set, I'd wager.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a flood of children and all sorts about to come into this room, so I'm going to have to get out of here. So I'm just going to say, yo, Joe, see you next week.
Yo, Joe. Bye.